Díomh gach duine fáilte as go dtí chlóréile an seo ar an Cluiche. Hello everyone, welcome back to another show on Cluiche with me, Séamus Brady and Luke Peyton. This episode we're going to look back at the opening weekend of the Championship, the LGFA League Finals, and of course the Allianz Hurling League Final as well. There was no camogie action on this weekend. But Luke, definitely a weekend of mixed bags. The opening round of the Championship in the football, and then the LGFA League Finals and the Hurling League Final. Crazy to think that all of those are on the same weekend. But an interesting episode to unpack.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it does raise a question on the calendar a little bit that, I don't know, I suppose that like with the clash between the league finals and then the first round of championship, did that kind of dampen the prestige of the league finals a little bit? I think there's an argument for that too a little bit, but that's just the way it is with the split season now, is that the calendar is so packed in. But yeah, no, it did take a bit of the shine off it. But like, no, a lot of interesting things to unpack here, like particularly like the with the finals and all that, and then I suppose in the championship, albeit not probably the strongest championship weekend, opening weekend ever, but like some big shocks too.
No, 100%. And definitely, the one that jumps off the page is obviously Waterford beating Tipperary. First Munster Championship victory for Waterford since 2010. Wicklow beating Westmeath. Like that, we're all going to dive into them. And for anybody watching, do get your live comments in, get your opinions, have your say. And we are going to start off with the game that was live today on RTE. It was on at 4 o'clock. It was between Monaghan and Cavan. The Ulster preliminary round, and it finished Cavan 3-12, Monaghan 1-12. This one was from Clonus. A big win for Cavan and Raymond Gallagher's first ever championship match as manager. Paddy Lynch led the way with 1-9. Pádraig Faulkner, one player of the match, he hit one of the goals. And obviously Jared Smith hit the other one. Those three really led the way for Cavan in this victory. But it was a game that was pretty back and forth. Cavan had it won. Then Monaghan looked like they had it won. And then Cavan won it again, coming back. Very topsy-turvy finish. But a victory for Cavan and a successful debut as manager in the championship for Raymond Gallagher.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it was, yeah, it's like you say, sums up pretty well. That I'd say Monaghan coming up to the 70 minutes, think they probably have enough done, probably enough won that to get over the line anyway. But like, yeah, huge finish, really strong finish from Cavan. And yeah, no, like a few interesting talking points in the game as well. Like I think at the start of the game, immediately people were drawn to like very small turnout, really small turnout. And I think that was a big surprise. I thought for like up in the Ulster Championship too, that I was expecting big Monaghan crowd and everything at it too. And maybe there was a little bit of that it was Cavan were taking a little bit for granted too, and that there wasn't the hype around it, and the support wasn't really there for them on the day as well. So there was that, and then the Rory Beggan factor coming in. Conor McManus started it kind of late as well. There was a bit of excitement then with that. And yeah, look, and Monaghan, they probably at coming up to 70 minutes thought they probably had enough done, but like I said, it's a really strong finish from Cavan anyway. And look, the 3 goals all really well taken, and like we've talked about, like every time I feel like I'm on talking about Cavan, you're talking about Paddy Lynch, but he's just an absolute superstar. So yeah, no, could have been a better start for Cavan, and like in a game that was always going to look like a banana skin for Monaghan as well. It was yeah, no, they got a job done on them anyway, particularly towards the end. And yeah, I think we'll see a bigger Monaghan crowd next time as well. They'll be needed next time to get them over the line.
They certainly will. And like one of the things that everybody's been talking about is Monaghan's injury record and everything like that. And obviously Darren Hughes pulled up with a big injury, and like we absolutely wish him the best in his recovery. Like Darren Hughes is a Monaghan GA legend. Like we hope, we wish, we pray that injury is not a bad one and that he will be back before the championship is out. You would hate to think that a career that has been so loyal to Monaghan that would finish in such a horrible way, finishing with a bad injury. But the one thing that is bad when you look at it from a Monaghan perspective as well is how many goals they're conceding, man. They've conceded 17 goals in 8 games in 2024. That's just not good enough. And I mean, when you're talking about the Monaghan kind of golden period, if you like, during the 2010s when they were winning Ulster championships and consistently staying in Division 1, like their defence had Vinnie Corey at 6, ironically, but it also had Drew Wiley, Colin Walsh, like really tough, solid defenders, and you didn't score goals on that Monaghan defence, definitely not at will. And this year the Monaghan defence looks more open than I've ever seen it look.
Yeah, and the confusing part is, I suppose, is like as the season progressed last year as well, Monaghan, like they were a well organised, well marshalled defensive side as well. Like sure, even you look in the semi-final, they lost to Dublin as well. Dublin didn't break them down really. Like there was a late goal where the game was up, and but other than that, Dublin didn't break them down at all. But no, look, I think you see it as well. Like particularly the Pádraig Faulkner goal as well. That they were walked through a little bit, and yeah, no, look, I think for a team that had been to an All-Ireland semi-final last year to be getting ripped open as much as they are, and like that stat, like I hadn't heard the stat about 17-8, but it's pretty damning. That's like in the I suppose in the intercounty game now, if you're averaging conceding over 2 goals a game, you've got big problems. So yeah, no, it's pretty damning.
It certainly is. You were commenting here from Gary. He says, "Hi guys, don't rule Monaghan, please. Love channel. Has a dear man leaking goals in Monaghan. Take care." Yeah, no, I do get you. We are going to then go on to the next point about this. Is Cavan then move on from this game? So a fantastic win for Cavan. Man of the match. Like when you're talking about this game and how influential he was. The players that were key in this victory, Paddy Lynch led the way with 1-9. Obviously, Pádraig Faulkner, who was player of the match, with that stunning goal. Jared Smith with a really tidy goal as well. They were the key players. Cavan got over the line in what was, an up and down game, a topsy-turvy one. Both sides looked like they might be able to push on and win at stages. But Cavan got over the line in the end. Obviously, Ray McGalligan's first game as boss in Championship. Now they move on to face Tyrone. And Brian Dooher was there in the crowd. And Tyrone as well have been inconsistent in the league as well. Do you think if you were Cavan that you'd be looking at that game thinking there's a potential scalp there?
Yeah, no, look, I think so. But I think, look, they're obviously going in. They're not going to be the favourites. And I think in a way, it was nearly a perfect league for, well, obviously not as preparation coming in for Championship. Like obviously the goal was to get promoted. They didn't achieve that as well. But they had a really solid league where they pushed Donegal and Armagh the entire way. And yeah, Donegal and Armagh competed Division 2 title, but they really were thereabouts with that as well. So I think they knew in themselves that they're on that level. We know that Donegal and Armagh are Division 1 quality sides, and that they probably should be playing Division 1 every year. And for them to be able to say that they can live with that level, be very competitive in both games as well with them two sides, they definitely went in with a lot of confidence, especially considering how Monaghan finished up, I suppose, in Division 1, how they went down and the way they did. So we probably shouldn't have been as surprised maybe by that result as we have been, but they'll have the same attitude going against Tyrone. Albeit Tyrone are obviously a step up from Monaghan. Tyrone are that level ahead of Monaghan anyway. They have better players than Monaghan, but at the same time, Cavan won't fear them too. I still think you can't say that Tyrone won't be the favourites, and that I still think that if you go 1-15, the Tyrone are better. But I really like.
They have that inconsistency in them, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have a bad performance in them. Like the Galway game, the Derry game in the league, they were bad performances. And I do agree with you. I think Tyrone have better players. Like Dara Canavan is one of the best forwards in the country right now, if not the best. And they have fantastic players across the pitch, but they are inconsistent right now. And I feel like for Cavan, who are so consistent throughout Division 2, they might eye that one up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing, you do look at Tyrone and it's kind of hard to know where you are, because you can see great performances in the league where they have some great wins, and then there was the absolute shit show that is the Dublin game anyway as well. But sometimes with Tyrone you kind of have to look past the league, and you know that they're very different, especially when they're this management team of Dooher, that they had that absolute disaster down in Kerry a couple of years ago as well, where they had a load of goals shipped past them, and then they're a completely changed team a few weeks later. So I still think you have to kind of take a lot of the league with a grain of salt. I think they're going to be ahead of Cavan in the favourites list. But again today you talk about that inconsistency. It's a very fair point, and the thing is, looking at Cavan now, they have taken the inconsistency out of their game. That what you're going to get with Cavan, and they're going to be a solid side every time. They're going to defend pretty well, and they're going to have an elite scorer up front as well. That's going to, no matter who you put on them, is going to get scores. So it sets up a nice, an interesting game anyway.
It certainly does, and Lynch is that guy. I mean, he very much led from the front throughout the entire game, and I think him, Faulkner, and Jared Smith were the difference makers in this game. This result definitely shocked everyone down then in Munster. Waterford 2-7, Tipperary 1-5 from Fairfield. It's Waterford's first Munster Championship victory since 2010. New boss in Paul Shanky with a huge win in his first year in the job. And the funniest thing is, this game started terribly for Waterford. Tip got a goal from Mark Stokes. He hit the back of the net inside 2 minutes. Tom O'Connell led the way for the Dacia with 2-3. Waterford turnover Tip and Fairfield, and they didn't pip them. Waterford were the better team, winning by 5 points.
Yeah, absolutely. And like this is just an absolutely huge result. And that, like, the last couple of years for Waterford football have been appalling. Like it's been really, really tough. And that nobody has taken more punishment it has taken as much punishment in the senior championship than Waterford over the last few years. And like there's two ways of looking at that. I think it's important that we focus first on Waterford themselves and getting a result here as well. And that, like, with the league that they had as well, the expectations after the league were at zero, that there was no hope whatsoever for them coming into it. Even in this game with Tipperary in terrible form, I don't think people were really giving them a chance here at all. So just for them, it's an absolutely spectacular kind of achievement. And but the mad part is, like, you look at how the league went. They're 70 minutes and one win away from being in an All-Ireland championship here with the narrative that's been there. Like, it's incredibly unlikely that they'll win out the next day. I'd be stunned if they do, and they probably won't. But like, they can say that now to themselves, and that in the preparation leading into the next day out, that they have 70 minutes to get themselves into an All-Ireland championship. So yeah, no, it's a big day for Waterford. And I think a lot of people in the panel and everything, that the immediate reaction from the game was that they weren't surprised, that they knew this day was coming. But still, when it comes, it is pretty good. But yeah, no, I think, look, will probably ask me something now about Tipperary too. Now, I think too.
Well, it's just like, you're looking at Tipperary's team. It's just like there's nobody left. Like, there's nobody there like that was in that 2020 team. And I think a lot of people point that out and say, like, it's crazy to think, but it's a completely different team. It's literally nobody's there anymore that was on that 2020 side. Connor Sweeney was on the bench, but apart from that, like, it's an unrecognizable team. And it's a real shame how, there was real potential there for Tip, but the interest just didn't seem to be there in Tipperary. Like, I remember the year after they won the Munster Football Championship, that they were Munster champions and they were playing in Division 3, and like nobody turned up for their league games. Like, there was no interest there in the footballers. Tip very much seemed to be just focused on the hurling, and like they're out here winning All Irelands at that time. Like, they were All Ireland hurling champions in 2019. So like, it is what it is, and it's a shame to see it completely fall like a stone back to the bottom. We've commented here from Gary. Seamus, Luke is a fantastic addition to your channel. If you rule out Kerry, you need your head examined. Luke has been here since the start, Gary. Luke, from the get-go. Luke has been there since the get-go. We're both the co-founders. But yeah, I do appreciate that. And if we rule out Kerry, yeah, we do need the head examined, because they still have the Cliffords, they still have Shawnee O'Shea and everything like that, and wouldn't rule them out at all. But the team that's going to face them next actually is the next team we're moving on to. Cork beat Limerick 3-13 to 11 points in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Now, the scoreline makes it look like Cork just had it all their way in this game, but they really didn't put Limerick away until the last 10 minutes. With 10 minutes to go, Limerick were still only 4 points off Cork and had battled them the entire game, even leading at half-time, thanks to some brilliant point scoring, particularly from Brian Nix. Limerick led 7-6 at half-time. Cork did hit 3-7 in the second half to Limerick's 4 points, but 2 of those goals came in the final 10 minutes from Ian Maguire and from Rory Dean. So up until that point, Cork did, struggle to put Limerick away. And I was saying, this is the type of game that Cork do struggle with when they are overwhelming favourites, and it's very much on them to take another team apart. In this game, did you see signs that Cork can kind of compete with Kerry, or would you be a bit worried going into that game?
Yeah, no, I think, look, from running off all accounts of it as well, like, when you keep track of the games that's happening, like, I think going into it, you wanted to see Cork kind of have a bit more control over it. Like you were saying, like, Limerick were like on top for a good bit of that first half. Like you said, went in on top at the half time as well, still in the game a long time like for long stages of it, and then the goals come in from Chris Jones, like you said, Rory Dean as well, added to it too. Like it was definitely a late kind of flurry of score, and to add to that, like I think that scoreline probably is a little bit kinder to Cork than maybe what the game actually was. I think it probably was on balance, it was probably closer than that as well. But at the same time, look, it's job done. Those games are just for winning. That you just have to get through there as well. Like Limerick aren't having a great season. We've seen that. Like we've seen that in the league as well. That their bit of momentum that they've had in the last couple of years has seemed to stalled a little bit, and that they seem to have plateaued a little bit, and they're kind of going back to towards where they
they've
were a
gone back.
little bit. Yeah,
They form like a stone.
yeah, like, but that's the thing, is that like all the momentum has left them. So for this game, Cork, like coming in, like with the side they are, Division Two side, that like they did want to be putting them away. They did essentially in the end, but like not as comfortably as they wanted to. But they can use that as well, and they will be using that going to Kerry. Like there's no way that Kerry are gonna have looked at that performance and be going, Jesus, Cork are really building something here. They're not gonna have that opinion. And with the league that we've seen from Cork as well, Kerry will absolutely, they won't take them, like they won't be taking them lightly, but like they won't be fearing them at all as well. So like in answer to the question, I don't really see where they can hurt them. I think they've a good bit
But
of
it's weird
experience.
though, because Cork, as I said, Cork are set up better to sit and be like, okay, you come at us. They've got the players like Sean Powter and Rory Dean, and like players that are just like Rory Maguire as well, Sean Meehan, like the Colin O'Callaghan and Ian Maguire at midfield, like they're good for a good battle of a game. And I feel like against Kerry, there's a reason why Cork beat them in 2020, and there's a reason why Cork then also took them to the pin of their collars last year, and it was a very fortuitous David Clifford penalty that got them over the line in that game. That Cork aren't afraid of Kerry either, and I do think that actually it will be a close game. I think if you're to monitor how it's gone over the last few years, like Kerry have the potential to blow Cork away. Like I don't doubt that, and they do have the firepower to do it. But I just feel like Cork are, they're battle hardened, particularly against Kerry. So I think it'll definitely be an interesting one to watch. We'll move on from this one then to the Leinster preliminary round, and boy, God, we had some mad results here. Obviously, this one's the main one. Westmeath, just 1 week after winning the Division 3 title, then lose to Wicklow 2-9 to 1-10 at O'Moore Park. And obviously Desi Dolan had been banging on about how ridiculous it was that the Division 3 final was only 1 week before their Leinster opener against Wicklow. And people have been talking about the condensed calendar, the condensed season. Is this the most poignant example of how this tightened calendar can affect a team? That Westmeath can go in 1 week from winning Division 3 against Down to losing so unexpectedly against Wicklow in the opening round of the Leinster Championship.
Yeah, no, look, it does look that way, but it does seem ridiculous that we can't have at least 1 week, like at least a week to go into it as well. And look, it's probably like a lot of the focus on this with the short run in was on the Ulster teams, which ironically they've all ended up having 2 to 3 week kind of run ins into it as well. So there isn't really an issue, I'd argue, for them as well. Whereas Westmeath did have a week, but even despite all that, and yeah, they got the short end of the straw with that one. But like at the same time, this for me, this is a bigger shock than the Waterford Tipperary game. I like, because you can look at Tipperary and say, yeah, Tipperary weren't in form and everything like that, and that Waterford on their day could have maybe produced a performance like they did. But like with this, like Westmeath, I don't know, like Westmeath looked every bit too good to be a Division 3 side during the whole league. Performed so well, looked so good, looked to be building something really, really good. That you see as well at the start, there was injury worries of Ronan Wallace, but then he plays as well. You just think all told like that, Westmeath, yeah, maybe they'll have tiredness be a factor, but they should be good enough to get over the line anyway here. But like what a result for Wicklow too though as well. And like you look at the disruption that like they've had throughout the year there. Mark Jackson's been their best player all year, and there's the whole thing with the draft with him and everything as well. For them to have for this year to be get them their kind of statement Leinster Championship win, like it's just what an unbelievable start to the year for them.
No, it certainly has. And like as I was saying at the start, I think this is the perfect example of how the condensed calendar is affecting teams. Wicklow deserve massive credit because not only did they win the game, they won it comfortably. Like they were 2-7 to 5 points up on the 52nd minute after Kevin Quinn's goal and after Dean Healy's goal. That actually put Wicklow 1-5 to a point up at half time. But when you look at Westmeath just a week ago winning Division 3 against Down, like it's unbelievable then that just 1 week later they looked so off the pace, and they did look knackered. By all accounts, they looked knackered at this game. And I do think it is something that the calendar committee or the people that decide it, they need to look at it and go, why is this happening? And again, myself and Matthew, Gaelic Stats, a big shout out to him. We talked about, look, the preseason competitions, like the O'Byrne Cups and the Walsh Cups and everything like this. Why are we keeping them around? If we move them away and then move the league back, we would have plenty of space and teams would be able to kind of rest and recover after league finals and then hop into championship. It seems like a very simple solution, one that we're not following. Anyway, moving on then to the next one. This one, no shock here. Wexford were the favourites, and by God, they proved to be worthy of that tag. Beating Carlow 4-19 to 8 points. An absolutely ruthless execution by Wexford.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just quick point like on this to start is that like with the weekend that we have in it have on it and all like that. I remember a couple of years ago Wexford playing Waterford in the football championship where the two sides were considered the worst teams probably in the country at the time. That's not so long ago, and and battling it out, and that like Wexford, sure Wexford got getting beaten from Waterford as well. That they've really this year they've made huge steps to bouncing back, and like it is kind of this year as well is that they're the marked improvement in their play, the really positive league they had as well, and yeah, what a great start. Like I think look, we can obviously say that Carlow Rising is absolutely transformed to Carlow's Falling, but like no, it's a perfect start for Wexford, and and I think look, we like you said, everybody expected them to win this game today, but the nature of it, 4-19 to 8 points is an absolute beatdown, and it's pretty shocking for Carlow coming into a championship where you all the time to prepare for it as well, and this is the start of your season, the biggest game of your year. For you to get a beaten like that is absolutely extraordinary. But perfect start for Wexford.
Yeah, no, it is a perfect start. And you look at the scorers here, like Sean Nolan with 1-7, Mark Rossiter with 2-2, Ben Brosnan came off the bench, still going strong with 3 points. Jonathan Beelan with the other goal. Like Wexford were fantastic. Carlow, on the other hand, had absolutely no answers for them. And yeah, like just where do you come back from that? I mean, like I remember Neil Carew coming in and taking the job, and he did talk a good game, but it feels like a defeat like that is like, what has all that been for? What's all the progress been for? If Wexford, a fellow Division 4 team, beat you out the gate like that in the first round of championship. Gary says Ulster is so hard. Imagine you won in Ulster. Dublin will win All Ireland unless Stirra. So them how to do it. I like you both, Luke, yourself, and Aaron. Thank you very much, Gary, for all the comments. The last Leinster game that we're going to look at is this one: Longford 3-12, Meath 3-19, and this one was at Pearse Park. Meath find it a little bit difficult against Longford. Longford definitely putting it up to Meath for long stages. Meath, the main scorers, Owen Frayne from centre forward hitting 1-5, Jordan Morris with 4 points, James Conlon with 1-6. They got the victory, but Longford certainly made it difficult for them at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, again, running off reports in this one here, but no, like sure, apparently a good wide open game of football, and like in a weekend which was plagued by tough weather conditions and everything as well. The two tallies put up as well, like just leans to an extraordinarily open game of football. Like this has been a few times we've seen McColmer Works teams that there's been talk about how open they are and that that they score score a fair bit as well, but they ship a good bit too. So it seems to kind of fluctuate a little bit, that they concede a bit, then they tighten up maybe again for a few games, and then they go back to conceding again. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the next day out where Meath they're only conceding 12 and scoring about 13 or 14. But like it's they do seem to get these games a good bit where they do look more wide open. But at the same time, this had banana skin written all over it as well, where like we know that Longford, how solid Longford are, how good Longford have been in championship, the shocks that they've caused as well. And I don't even think, like with the difference between the two sides, I wouldn't have even said the difference was that huge. Obviously, Meath were going to be the favourites, but having to go away to Longford and everything as well, it's just that banana skin written all over it. So look, it's job done. It's a lot of scores put up. The forward line function really well, and they can tighten up a little bit of defence going into the next round.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that Meath do. I feel like, especially with Colin O'Rourke, it's like his head against his heart. Like he wants to play this kicking game, and he wants to be as open. He wants to be man to man, and sometimes it gets them caught, and then sometimes he goes back to being a little bit more defensive. But I feel like he knows what game he wants to play, and if every manager played like that, the game would be a lot more enjoyable to watch, no doubt about it. We're moving across then to the west, and just funny enough that I speak about it, there's one of these games that's actually on right now. Of course, New York are playing against London. Currently, as I say this, it is 5 points to 2 in favour of Mayo. Ryan O'Donoghue has hit 4 points already in the first 20 minutes. Aidan O'Shea has got the other one. But the two games that are finished and were full-time, we'll start with this one. This happened at Park Sean McDermott. Sligo 15 points, Leitrim 6. So this is the other team that are in a league final. Two teams played in league finals last week. Neither of them won this weekend. And obviously Westmeath were massive favourites to do so. So again, it's another thing to look at. Leitrim were never in this game. And a rivalry between these two counties is so strong that usually they perform better against each other no matter what stage both of them are at. Like I remember Sligo being amazing in 2010 up until the Roscommon Connacht final. I remember Leitrim then beating them the next year to the shock of everyone. But like, so there's history of these two counties getting the best out of each other. But this game, Leitrim had no answer to Sligo, and Sligo got what was a relatively comfortable victory. I mean, the main scorer is Niall Murphy with 5 points, Canis Mulligan with 2, Dara Cummins with 2. It was just a comfortable victory for Sligo.
Yeah, look, and they're going the right way, and that you can see there definitely is something building, like in Sligo as well, and that like they have a great opportunity at the moment with the momentum from those under 20 sides. Like you talked about Canis Mulligan, that he like straight in midfield as well, got from being that under 20 captain last year in there as well, kicking 2 points today. Like it's they have plenty of opportunity with those really good underage sides to build something as well. And like Leitrim as well, like Leitrim are a much improved side from what we've seen in Connacht in recent years as well. When Andy Moore's come in, he's put the structure on them as well. He's made them tough to beat, and they're no longer like this kind of figure that it's just to take the win for granted. It's just like status that people said about Leitrim before, they're a side that has to be taken seriously, and like for this level of performance to get like a 15-6 dominant win over them there, where it's just it's a really solid start. And like they're of course now they've the big guns are what remains kind of in Connacht now after that as well. It's Mayo's, the Galways and the Roscommons, and remains to be seen like whether this year if they're at a stage where they can compete with them yet. But like that's the goal for Sligo, is that they know that they need to be getting to a stage where they can upset one of the big boys, and like they have plenty of potential. Like big fan of Sean Cavan as well. There's more on him too as well coming up in the next few rounds. So like there's plenty of opportunity for Sligo, and look, they'll be able to go in and have a good crack now at one of the big sides now after a really solid performance where probably look defensively solid, didn't ship a big tally at all, and just controlled the game, so they couldn't have asked for more.
Yeah, no, that's it. They got in and they got out with the win, no question about it. And that means that they are now into what is a replay of the Connacht final last year against Galway. So Galway absolutely mopped the floor with London in Ruislip, 5-21 to 9 points. Like again, it's one of those things where when Aaron was talking to me on I think we were on his show or this show, one of the two, and Aaron was saying basically doesn't understand why they don't just do seeded provincial championships. And I mean, it makes the most amount of sense. Like that London should then have to kind of earn a shot at the big teams. Because putting Galway against them in round one is you're just giving them a whipping. And sure enough, that ended to be what it was, like 36-9 in total, like a 27-point annihilation for London to kick off their championship. But what good does that do anybody, really? Galway got in. Tom O'Callaghan with 2 goals, Cathal Sweeney with 1-1, Kane Darcy with 1-2, Paul Conroy 1-3, Cillian O'Curreen 4 points, Rob Finnerty 4 points. But again, that you can't take anything from this really for Galway.
No, you can't take anything at all. I think you can nearly say more negative from it because, like, during the week, it's all the talk from Porrick Joyce as well as been of the injuries, and then straight away Tom O'Callaghan scores 2 goals, looks really, really promising, and bang, he's off injured now as well. So it's it's just they've been desperately unlucky, and there's some players that have had to come into the panel now and are playing regular game time that I don't think Porrick Joyce probably would have expected them to be playing at all at the start of the season. We wouldn't have been factoring them as probably options, but they have to look. The thing is, if they can ever get the squad fully back now, they've built some serious depth due to necessity of having to play players that there's lots of lads that like they've found because they've had to just play them because there's no one else. So like there's been plenty of positives too, but like coming into the championship now, you want to be getting players back from injury, not other players as well. And then finally a fella like that has shown so much promise, has a chance, scores 2 goals, build up his confidence, and then he's out injured as well. Like they'll be praying he's not gone too long.
Yeah, no, it's vitally important for Cohan's confidence that he is back. And again, no sign of Shane Walsh, no sign of Damien Coleman, no sign of Killian McDade. It'll be very interesting to see when they emerge back. Hopefully they do come back in this championship, all 3 of them. Peter Cook is the only one who is confirmed to be absent for the year. It was bad news on the LGFA side for Galway this weekend. They were relegated after losing to Waterford at home at Duggan Park. Waterford came and beat them by 11 points to 9. And what's worse about this is going into the home stretch, Galway were in the clear. And again, it was a similar type of situation that they were in against Dublin and Parnell Park that they managed to lose that game as well. But Galway led 8 points to 6 with 20 minutes left on the clock. Then Waterford had a dominant final quarter. Lauren McGregor, Emma Murray and Kate E. Murray pushed the Daisha on to victory. And one thing that I'm thinking about this is, look, Waterford showed more fight, I think, than Galway in their defeats. But for Galway, it's confusing when you see like the Kilkerran Clonberne 3 in a row. And you think, how is this not translating more to Galway's success?
Yeah, no, I think so. And it's like, look, you would say that the club game Galway always has had more success. Like we see Waterford been dominated by the one club side and everything like that as well. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose I think it's a huge blow for them as well. They've been a side that's been consistently at Division One status as well, going to go down. It's absolutely a blow for them as well, and they haven't
Along with Cork, I mean, it's the changing of the guard. Yeah. Like both of those teams going down, it's a absolutely, really, really, really surprising to see Cork go down, given the history that they had in the 11 All-Irelands in 12 years and everything like that. Once Katie Quirk got injured, you knew they were going down. Galway is very similar in that sense that I couldn't believe that they lost the Dublin game. Like I genuinely was scratching my head after thinking, how on earth did they throw that away? Then they bounced back, had a good victory. I think it was against Meath to give themselves a shot in the arm and a bit of hope. But some games they lost, like they really shot themselves in the foot. And this one definitely was the one that took the cake, and losing to Cork in the opening round, 1-5 to 6 points when Katie Quirk scored all of Cork's tally. Those are the ones that they're going to look back on.
Yeah, no, look, absolutely, I think so. And it's like, no, look, you sum it up pretty well on that. But like that's the thing, they were thereabouts in so many games as well to go down. Like, but you think as well, you probably think next year for Division 2 as well. I think everybody has a fair idea who's probably going to be coming up next year as well. That like the two sides like that as well, once they get their house in order, you'd imagine it won't be a long-term situation for both Cork or Galway.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. So that's the one game that was originally supposed to be a normal fixture, but it got postponed because of the bad weather. But there were silverware an option, and the final 5 games we're going to cover are league titles, which were won by 5 different teams, starting with an inaugural, for that county their first ever league title. Armagh won their first ever LGFA League title over the weekend, beating Kerry 2-12 to 2-9 at Croke Park. The goals coming from Amy Mackin and Niamh Coleman. And Amy Mackin's goal, if you have not seen it, it is already one of the goals of the year. Takes it outside the box, turns around and off that left boot straight into the roof of the net, pretty much top bins. Unbelievable finish by Amy Mackin. And again, she led the way, along with Kelly Mallon, 1-9 between the two of them. And for Armagh, first ever league title.
Yeah, look, and I don't know. I don't know if you'd say like this is this fitting in with our team of surprise kind of results of the weekend. I think look, Kerry obviously.
It was a surprise that Kerry didn't turn up sharper. Kerry definitely looked off the pace in this one.
Yeah, no, look, I think so, and that like that's the thing. But like we look at it as well, where Kerry, look, you're probably looking through all Ireland probably favourites, maybe, and I'd say where you're kind of coming into the game anyway as well. Armagh as well, with no history on the line of this note anyway as well, of Division 1 level titles as well, for them to get over the line here as well. It's absolutely huge for them as well. And yeah, no, look, it's a huge boost for them going into an Ulster Championship as well there too. But yeah, no, again, like you will say, Kerry are still going to be, you'd struggle to imagine that they're going to be, there's going to be a replication of that as well as this season goes on.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. Look, and the reality is Kerry were a little bit flat. Like, they definitely weren't at the regular pace. And what was interesting is the Kerry manager pretty much said, look, this wasn't the goal at the start when he was interviewed after on TG Cavan. It was very, very interesting to see him say that, because obviously the interview was Oscar Elga. A lot of people would miss it, but he was basically like, look, it wasn't our initial goal to be there. And I'm like, okay, it's all well and good saying that after you lose a league final. Armagh were the better team. Kerry didn't show up themselves. And as I said, if you haven't seen Amy Mackin's goal, man, go look it up on Twitter. It's an absolutely sensational finish by what is one of the best footballers in the country. Armagh were the better side. They deserve their league title, no question about it. And congratulations to them. And I think, like, when you look at it over the years, especially over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been waiting for Armagh to explode into life, if you like. We've been waiting for them to really put together the undoubted talent that they have, because the Mackin sisters, Kelly Mallon, Clodagh McCambridge, Caroline O'Hanlon, like, we know what they've got. And Aoife McCoy is another great example of a quality player that they have. It's this the year they could finally put it together, because now that they've won silverware that they've never won before, they have picked up Ulster, but it's not really been against, your All-Ireland contenders. This time it is. They've beaten everybody but Dublin and won the league. So I think this year is as good as I've seen them. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And you have to say, well, you have to say we haven't seen it from them before as well. Haven't seen them put all this together before. And like you said, look, as it goes in with the bookies and everything as well, they won't factor in the league, and they won't factor in like a competition, especially like you said. It's a good point where the Kerry manager afterwards saying like that, oh, we didn't want to win it and all that sort of stuff as well. But that's just classic Kerry, I suppose, in a way. But no, like I think we'll see as well that as it goes on, the likes of Kerry, the likes of Dublin, they do peak for later on the season. That's the challenge that Armagh are going to face. Like, yeah, they've come out of the blocks like an absolute train. They've won the league, everything like that as well. So yeah, like this is the thing as well. We'll be asking the same question now in a minute of in a few minutes of Clare and the hurling now as well. I think it's a similar situation. So yeah, no, look, all ahead of us as well, and it's just that thing as well, is can they maintain that for a full year?
Yeah, no, hopefully they can, because like they definitely have the potential, and it could be a Meath style situation where they could come along as underdogs. Now, moving on to the Division 2 final, 2 first half goals for Kildare proved to be the difference in this game. Tyrone were brilliantly led by Mairead Canavan throughout the whole game, but the first half goals from Claire Sullivan and Nasa Dooley were crucial as Kildare defeated Tyrone to win their first Division 2 crown since 2004. So at halftime they led 2-4 to 6. And that pretty much took them over the line in the end. Great victory for Kildare, who are really on a roll. Like, you think, like, the All-Ireland Intermediate title, now a Division 2 title on top of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, like you said as well, sure, there's a history of winning it from Division 2 as well, within Leinster teams winning from Division 2 as well. But look, yeah, big challenge, step up as well coming into thing as well. But like, just really good win for them as well, and to get over the line as well. Like you said as well, Mairead Canavan, main woman for Tyrone, but yeah, no, it's a huge win for Clare in looking at national final as well. And yeah, look, they'll give it a good crack anyway as well. Obviously, Dublin as well in the Leinster Provincial Championship, they're going to be really up against it in that sense as well. Meath are still kicking about as well, but like it's no better
They
way what
carry
they could have done.
momentum. You can't they
Yeah,
remind me a lot of Meath. Like they really, really do. Like the way that they're coming up, like the way that they're just dismissing everybody, like you're not on our level. It does look like what Meath were doing when they were coming up the ranks. Like Meath just looked too good for everybody on their way up to senior, and then obviously we know the rest. And if back to back All Ireland senior championships, we had never seen the like of it. And then the Division 3 final and Division 4 final both happened in Beer. The Division 3 final was the main event. Clare beat Roscommon 1-6 to 1-4. Surprising to me that Clare were in that division in the first place when you look at the fact that like they lost at the last second to Kildare in the All-Ireland Intermediate final last year. Like they were pretty much mid-kick of the ball when the hooter went and the game finished. This game against Roscommon, the big scores for Clare, Ailish Considine, obviously the main name there, obviously just returned from the AFLW with 1-2. Roscommon, on the other hand, their score is coming from Laura Fleming with 4 points. She was the main scorer for them. But look, the reality is Clare were the better team in that game. And then in Division 4, a bit of a surprising result. Carlow beating Limerick 1-7 to 6 points in Birr. Main scorer, of course, Clean Shea with 4 points. Rachel Sawyer at centre forward with 1 point. And the goal coming from substitute Maria O'Neill with that goal, only 17 years of age as well, via Jerome Quinn's Instagram page. So definitely a young hero there for Carlow, and fair play to her. And fair play to Clare and to Carlow for those league titles. And the final game we're going to touch on here is you move from the big ball to the small ball, and we're going to cover the Allianz Hurling Division 1 League Final. Clare beating Kilkenny 3-16 to 120 at Semple Stadium. A really, really impressive victory for the Banner County. Aidan McCarthy leading the way with 2-10 as the Banner pick up silverware under Brian Lohan for the first time.
Yeah, and I think that is a key point, is that like we don't know how many more years the Brian Lohan era has, and that it was this argument beforehand was that they've always put it up to Limerick and that they've been great in that sense, but there wasn't ever any silverware beforehand. And look, it's a national league. A lot of people are going to say that's just a national league, but you see the scenes at the end of the game where the pitch was in Thurles was absolutely covered. Like I'd say the entirety of County Clare was down at that they really were craving a bit of silverware. And it was a strange game too, in that I don't think Clare were close to their best, and that they didn't fire fully, but at the same time they got over the line, and they've unearthed a few new players, and they what will really encourage them is that after probably a inconsistent enough league, that in the biggest game of all, they got Aidan McCarthy's best game. And after a few games where they'd taken issues, he fairly nailed nearly all of them and then contributed from play as well. So, I think for Clare going into it, their season will be judged by how they get on the next two games. That they've Limerick at home and then Cork away, which is you cannot get a tougher start to a championship than that. And that's what they'll be judged on. But look, I think it was important for Brian Lohan too that he can say that when he does finish up as the Clare manager, that he does have silverware to show for it too, and that it wasn't that it was just a great team that really put it up to Limerick and was always thereabouts. They've got their trophy now, but look, they'll be absolutely they would drop it in a second for a Munster title or an All Ireland, preferably an All Ireland title later down the year.
And how do you see them going into that game? Obviously, the league and everything like that, they were coming into it without Tony Kelly, without Ryan Taylor, big injuries like that. And obviously, the mantle fell on Aidan McCarthy more than it ever had before. Shane O'Donnell was on the bench for this one. They're starting to come back to their full component. Obviously, they're trying to prevent Limerick from gaining immortality this year. How do you see them going into this championship now?
Yeah, look, they're looking good, Nick. And that's the thing. It's there's a few questions about because I think there was a lot of contrast and stuff about Tony Kelly's fitness, and there was a lot of people saying he'd be back for the league final, and then there was no sign of him anyway at the weekend. So we don't really know how he is like I think Lohan said that he should be grand for the first game, but whether that be off the bench, whether that be starting. But like we see as well, Shane O'Donnell back, played 35 minutes. Dave McInerney back anyway, came on for the last 20 as well. That was a huge one too. So like I think in their absence, these players, that they've won a league title without these players. And yeah, like they came on for the last few minutes, but in doing so, they had to blood new players. And I think Connor Lean at cornerback has been a great find, and that he he has a great chance of starting in the cornerback spot against Limerick as a complete newcomer, taking Rory Hayes' spot. Keane Galvin had to play in David McInerney's absence. Like I think he'll probably struggle to start now in the first round, but he's really had a strong league. And I think Darragh Lohan has a great chance to play midfield now as well, where Ryan Taylor won't be back anyway until the latter end of Munster, and there's that gap in midfield that there's going to be a place beside Cathal Malone for grabs. And I think Lohan's had a really strong league and has a great chance of doing so. We'll see what happens with Tony Kelly when he comes back in, but they've had to play new players. They've had to find new players, and yeah, look, and they've managed to balance all that with winning a league title too. So it's been an incredibly positive league, and but it will look. It's harsh, but they will be judged on how they get on in 2 weeks. And like if Limerick come to town and beat them comfortably, everybody will say, they put too much into the league. And then if they beat Limerick at home, then they'll say, oh, it's been a masterstroke by Lohan, where blooding all these new players. It's a real harsh kind of environment, the Munster Championship. But no, look, from looking at them now, they look to be in good health. They look to have found some really good young players, and they have that experience coming back in. So yeah, no, look, I think Limerick will be looking at them quite nervous coming in to Ennis, like as well, which is an absolute fortress.
I mean, you were saying about Limerick, like you were saying from a Clare point of view, to have Limerick at home is a tough assignment, but for Limerick to have Clare away in round one is the most difficult one you could give them. It's the only game that they've lost since 2019.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, and like it's there isn't really a tougher fortress of a place to go. Dan Ennis as well. Like Clare are rarely ever turned over down in Ennis, and yeah, no, look, it's got the atmosphere for that. It's going to be absolutely electric as well, and we know now as well, Darragh Donovan will be out injured too, but like it sets it up really, really nicely. But I think, look, it's important that Clare focus on this a little bit. I know Conor Cleary after the game was quickly moving on from it as well, but like it is important that they got their they got a piece of silverware towards it. And yeah, no, look, and it was the performance itself. I think they can improve on it a lot. They like obviously clinical with the 3 goals, but like I think they can definitely improve on that as well. I think that they'll be more fluid in future, and yeah, I do think the addition of Tony Kelly back will be much needed kind of boost their forward line as well. That they just need that one player, central player, I think, to just keep chipping over the scores as well. Compliment to Davy Fitz, who looks to be like could be in hurler of the year type form, but yeah, no, look, Clare and good nick, and sure Kilkenny as well. Just to briefly touch Kilkenny, the setback of losing TJ Reid just before the throw in, like the news coming out that the hamstring strain, they were always going to be up against it, and yeah, look, but they fought really bravely, really good finish to the game as well. They were still in it. Like they looked to be dead and buried a good few times as well when the goals come in, but they just never gave up as well in classic Kilkenny fashion. And like in a team without Mikey Butler, Mike Carey, TJ Reid, Tom Phelan to come back in, for them to be only 2 points behind Clare in the league final, in the national final, I don't think they'll be that worried. They do know that they don't have the depth that they previously had. Like you look at some of the players that are coming on, just not having the same impact as what they've had previously. But they know when they get that first 15 out, they can be a match for anyone.
They certainly can. Joseph says here, Limerick will be lucky to get out of Ennis with a draw. There's one thing for sure, that game is going to be an absolute cracker. And as Luke said, all eyes will go to Ennis for that opening round. That'll be a game that the country will watch. It'll be solid. The atmosphere will be absolutely extraordinary, and we'll be covering it here, doing a preview, the whole lot. So that is the weekend recap here on Cluiche, guys. Mila Machgriff for joining us on this show. For myself and Luke, until the next episode, here on Cluiche, Torah.